Hello, everybody. Welcome to Curriculum Conversations with Angela and
Eve.
welcome to week 3. So we're going to dive right in. I'm going to start talking about what I do in my course during week 3. So you'll start to see a pattern in my course. I get very sort of structured and repetitive. As I had established, I'm a structured person. So for week 3, I have them do the chapter 3 reading, which is all about infancy. And then I have them listen to the chapter 3 podcast, which I created to coincide with what they read, with a little bit of extra examples and relevant things that I've learned sort of from my research. Then I have them do the mastery training assignment, which again incorporates that distributed practice where they get to practice the material and the concepts from the class or from that chapter. They take a quiz on that. The quiz is low stakes, so they can take it multiple times and get full credit for it. And my last one is the assignment. And this assignment is embedded within the podcast just to make sure they're listening to the podcast. And so I ask them to take all the information we learned from chapter 3 and to write a letter to a new mom. Like, imagine that they had a friend who just had a baby, and like, what advice would you give that new mom? What information would you share with them from what we gained from this week's chapter? So my goal is to really help them to synthesize the information and for them to also see that this information is not just academic, but it's actually practical, that they can use this information if they know people with children or if they have children themselves.
Awesome. In contrast, but again, in line with what we've been saying, this is week 3 and it's completely different from week 2, which was different from week 1, right? So they're all different. I have students read one chapter out of a different mirror, which is the kind of the class textbook. Gives them a general sense of this period we're covering between 1800 and the 1840s. And then I have them watch a documentary titled Tecumseh's Vision, which kind of shows intertribal coalition, confederacy, and this anti-US, anti-colonial movement. And then we move into 2 short chapter sections from Iron Cages that talk about the Jeffersonian era and the Jacksonian era and the differences in their policies and the way in which they're dealing with what they view as the Indian problem. And then I have them watch another documentary, which is another case study, which is on the Cherokee Nation and the Trail of Tears. And it really lays out how the Cherokee Nation is being impacted by US policies, but also the way in which they're responding to and resisting, US expansionism and assimilation policies in some ways. They do not have a quiz or a graded discussion board for this week, which is different from the weeks before. Again, my thinking was they have a paper coming up the week after, so give them a little break on that. Although in the course, the overview of the module, I do suggest that they take notes on key terms and concepts, key historical figures that are discussed in these readings, and also the events that are covered. So they have a good sense of notes from these readings and documentaries, because it is a lot. So that's what I have them doing on week 3.
Awesome. So I actually had a question for you. You said that there's no sort of assignment for this week, but do you get a sense that students know what they're supposed to know from the readings and the documentaries? Because I can imagine that if I were a student, I would watch these things and be like, okay, I did it and I read it, but I'm not sure if I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How do I connect all these different things, right? And
Yeah.
yeah. So, I think when I put it together, I was relying heavily on the fact that this class, we meet once a week synchronously, and I'm able to kind of give a lecture and kind of connect the dots for them in that way.
Yeah.
But looking back, I think there's definitely some ways that I can scaffold that process for them and help them connect those dots a little bit better, take better notes, more focused notes.
Yeah.
So in my little notes of what I could do better, I thought I could assign a quiz with very specific questions from each of the readings and the documentaries to really direct them into what they need to focus on for those. I could also provide a short video that goes along with the overview page of the module to give them a sense of why and how these are connected, even before they get into all of the material. And I think I could probably also add a discussion board, graded or not graded, but one that allows students to share their notes, but also their reactions to these materials, just to kind of keep that conversation going for them and some consistency with the modules before.
Yeah, I like that. I like having this sort of open discussion board because just from your description, these sound like really powerful sort of readings and documentaries. And I feel like I would have a lot to react to in reading and watching those things. And so that's nice that you have that where you can have a dialogue with people in the class if you choose to. I like that. And for me too, having the quizzes, like I do a quiz every week, it helps students really test their own knowledge before they actually have to demonstrate that knowledge to you.
Right.
Right. Like if you were to make this a low stakes quiz, like if you could let them take it multiple times so that they could make sure that, oh, I thought I knew that, but I don't. Let me go back and check, and then I can try again. Right. I think that that helps, especially with a heavy content week like you have.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where I'll kind of leaning on you with those technical skills on how to set up those quizzes. Because that played a role in me not creating a quiz because there's so many issues and I'm barely learning this Canvas thing with the quizzes. So that definitely played a role. The other issue is the discussion board. If it's not graded, I've done this before, I get very minimal participation. So how to get them to participate where it's not going to hurt their grade or add more stress in terms of another assignment, but to still have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And that really hits at, I think, a core question that a lot of faculty members face, which is how do you motivate students to engage? And I think that that's actually a good topic for one of our extra credit videos that we're going to do in the future.
Definitely, definitely. You know, I did want to ask in terms of your assignment, how do you deal with the students in your class that maybe already have a child, had that experience, or are siblings of someone, or, you know, have been in that process and may be experiencing something different from what is in the content of the material from the course?
That's a great question. And that's something that I see every semester. I have I have the students who have no experience with children and they take the information from the book and they wrap it up really nicely in a nice little letter and it's great. That was sort of the goal of the assignment. But then I have students who have some experiences with newborns and they're like, new mom, this is how it is. And they sort of share their own experiences. And I love it. But the problem is that the goal of the assignment for me was to incorporate information from the textbook, and I've struggled in the past with how do I validate these very real and thoughtful experiences that they're sharing with me, but also get the point across that I love that, but also you should be incorporating things from the textbook. So I've struggled with that, honestly, because I really enjoy reading it from their perspective. And the last thing I want to do is shut down their perspective and their experiences. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have a suggestion for me?
Well, yeah, I think one way you could do is have it kind of be comparative. Compare their individual experience, their anecdotal evidence with that which is coming from the scholarship. Have them kind of make sure that they're have some kind of specific ways in which they can compare and contrast their experiences from what is being presented in the chapter.
Yeah, I like that. I could even have like sort of two options for assignments, right? Like I could have write a letter to that mom based on what you learned in the book, but also if you have experiences with infants, you can compare and contrast your experiences with what we're learning about in the textbook. I think that that's such a great way to let students bring their strengths and their experiences into the classroom. And I think that that would actually enhance the conversation rather than detract from it. So I love that. Thank you. I'm definitely going to have to incorporate that. Awesome. So that does it for week 3. Next week, we'll be going on to week 4. Also, keep an eye out for those extra credit episodes where we'll talk about things outside of our weekly content, where we dive into some of the issues that we might encounter in our classrooms. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.